Welcome back to the English Daily Podcast. I'm Anna.
And I'm Jake. Today we're talking about a skill that can improve your conversations, your studies, and even your career, the art of asking better questions.
That sounds simple, Jake. We ask questions every day. What time is it? Where is the station? How was your weekend?
True, but not every question creates a good conversation. Some questions only produce a short answer, while others open the door to ideas, stories, and useful information. Learning how to choose the right question is especially helpful in English.
Absolutely. When you are learning a language, a good question can keep a conversation going even when you do not know many words. It also helps you understand people more clearly instead of guessing what they mean.
Let's begin with a basic difference: closed questions and open questions. A closed question usually has a short answer, often yes, no, or one piece of information. For example, did you enjoy the movie?
The answer might be, yes, I did. An open question encourages a longer answer. We could ask, what did you enjoy about the movie? Now the other person can talk about the story, the acting, or the music.
Here is a useful vocabulary word: encourage. To encourage something means to help it happen or to make it more likely. An open question encourages a detailed answer. You can also encourage a friend by saying, keep practicing. You're improving.
A practical tip is to change a yes or no question into a question beginning with what, how, why, or which. Instead of asking, was your trip interesting? Try, what was the most interesting part of your trip?
That question is better because it gives the listener a clear direction. It is not too general, and it invites a personal story. Of course, why can also be useful, but we need to use it carefully.
Right. Why did you choose that job can sound friendly in one situation, but it can sound critical in another. The listener may feel that they have to defend their decision.
This brings us to tone. Tone means the feeling or attitude behind your words. The same question can sound curious, worried, impatient, or judgmental, depending on your voice and the situation.
If you want to sound supportive, you can soften a question. Instead of saying, why are you late, you could say, is everything okay? What happened? The second version shows concern before asking for information.
Another softening phrase is, could you tell me a little more about that? It is polite, natural, and useful in many situations. You can use it at work, in class, or when talking with a new friend.
Let's practice with a small conversation. Suppose I say, I'm thinking about moving to another city. A weak response is, really? When? A stronger response might be, what attracts you to that city?
And I might answer, it has more jobs in my field, and my sister lives there. Then you could ask, how do you think the move would change your daily life? That question moves from facts to feelings and possibilities.
The phrase attracts you is useful. If something attracts you, it makes you interested in it or makes you want to go toward it. A city might attract you because of its jobs, culture, climate, or public transportation.
Now let's talk about follow-up questions. A follow-up question is a question that responds to something the other person has just said. It shows that you are listening, and it makes the conversation feel natural.
For example, if someone says, I started learning guitar, you might ask, what kind of music do you want to play? Or you could say, how often do you practice? Both questions connect directly to the first answer.
A common mistake is to ask a completely new question before responding to the previous answer. It can make the conversation sound like an interview. Instead, listen for one interesting detail and build your next question around it.
Here is a simple listening formula: notice, react, and ask. First, notice a detail. Second, react with a short comment. Third, ask a connected question. For example, you visited Iceland? That sounds amazing. What surprised you most?
That formula is excellent for English learners because the reaction gives you time to think. You do not need to produce a long sentence immediately. You can say, that sounds exciting, I've always wanted to try that, or I didn't know that.
These short reactions are called conversational signals. They signal that you are engaged. Other examples include I see, that makes sense, no way, and tell me more. Remember, your voice should match the situation.
Now, Anna, imagine we are at a networking event. I want to meet people, but I do not want to ask boring questions. What could I ask?
You could ask, what kind of projects are you working on these days? This is better than what do you do, because it allows a person to discuss current interests, not only their job title.
Good point. I could also ask, what part of your work do you find most rewarding? Rewarding means giving you a feeling of satisfaction or achievement. A rewarding activity makes you feel that your effort is worthwhile.
At a networking event, avoid questions that are too personal too quickly. Begin with a shared situation. You might ask, what brought you to this event, or which talk have you enjoyed so far? These questions feel comfortable because everyone is in the same place.
In the workplace, questions can help solve problems. But a question should not only point out a problem. It should also help the group think about a solution. Instead of asking, why did this project fail, try, what can we learn from this result?
That is a powerful change. The first question may create blame. The second creates reflection. Reflection means careful thought about an experience. After a meeting, you can reflect by asking yourself, what went well, and what could I improve?
When you need instructions, be specific. Instead of saying, what should I do, ask, which task should I finish first, and when is it due? Specific questions save time and reduce confusion.
And if instructions are unclear, politely check your understanding. You can say, so, if I understand correctly, I should send the first draft by Friday. Is that right? This is a very useful sentence for meetings and classes.
Let's discuss questions for learning. Many students ask, what is the answer? That can be useful, but better questions may help them learn more deeply. Try, what is the main idea? What evidence supports it, or how is this similar to something I already know?
The word evidence means information that supports an idea or shows that something is true. In a science article, evidence could be data or the results of an experiment. In a story, evidence might be a character's actions or words.
If you are studying English, ask your teacher questions about patterns, not just individual words. For example, when would a native speaker use this phrase, or what is the difference between these two expressions?
You can also ask for correction in a friendly way. Could you point out one mistake I should focus on? The phrase focus on means to give your attention to something. Choosing one mistake can be less stressful than trying to fix everything at once.
There is another important skill, asking yourself questions. Before reading, ask, what do I already know about this topic? While reading, ask, what is the writer trying to explain? After reading, ask, what can I use from this information?
Self-questioning turns passive learning into active learning. Passive means receiving information without doing much with it. Active means participating and making decisions. Active learners remember more because they connect new ideas to their own lives.
We should also mention difficult conversations. When someone is upset, do not immediately ask, what is your problem? That sounds aggressive. A calmer option is, would you like to talk about what happened?
And respect their choice. If they say no, you can answer, that's okay. I'm here if you want to talk later. A good question opens a door, but it should not push someone through the door.
I like that image. Questions should create space. They should not feel like an interrogation. An interrogation is a very intense process of asking someone many questions, usually to discover information. In normal conversation, we want curiosity, not pressure.
One way to avoid pressure is to share something about yourself too. If you ask, what do you do to relax, you can add, I usually go for a walk or listen to music. Sharing makes the conversation more balanced.
Let's give our listeners a quick challenge. Think of a closed question you often ask. Maybe, do you like cooking? Change it into an open question.
You could say, what do you like to cook, or what is a meal you enjoy preparing? If the person says they do not cook, follow up with, what kind of food do you enjoy eating?
Notice that a conversation can continue even when the first answer is unexpected. Good questioners are flexible. They do not follow a fixed list. They listen and adapt.
Adapt means to change your approach because the situation has changed. If a person gives a short answer, you might ask a simpler question. If they seem excited, you can invite them to share more.
Before we finish, here are 5 useful question starters. What was the best part of? How did you decide to? What do you mean by? Could you give me an example? And, what would you recommend?
The third starter, what do you mean by, is especially helpful when you do not understand a word or idea. Asking for clarification is not a weakness. It is a smart way to prevent misunderstandings.
Exactly. You can say, what do you mean by flexible, or, could you explain that in a different way? You can also repeat the part you understood. I understand the first point, but could you clarify the last part?
Let's recap today's key points. Open questions invite longer answers, while closed questions are useful for quick facts. Use what, how, why, and which to explore ideas, but pay attention to tone.
Use follow-up questions to show that you are listening. Try the notice, react, and ask formula. In professional and academic situations, make your questions specific, and ask for clarification when you need it.
Most importantly, good questions are respectful and curious. They help us learn, solve problems, build relationships, and communicate with confidence in English.
For practice today, choose one conversation and ask one open question. Then listen carefully and ask a follow-up question about one detail. You may be surprised by how much more interesting the conversation becomes.
Thanks for listening to the English Daily Podcast. We hope this episode helps you ask better questions and have richer conversations.
If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to the English Daily Podcast, leave a review, and share it with another English learner. See you next time.